The third important point is clarity. What do I mean by clarity? Remember, you are not writing an application for yourself. You are writing an application for others to understand. So your meaning should be clear. There is no need of using high bombastic languages or high bombastic words. Simple things make it more beautiful. So use simple words so that the meanings become clear to the other person. Next important point is that it should be correct. Correct? What does correct mean? Correct means the language part of it. The grammar should be correct. The spellings should be correct. Enough care has to be taken to write a letter of application correctly. This is an age of computer. I have been repeating time and again. And you cannot say my grammar is poor or my language is poor. Go in for a spell check. Go in for a grammar check before actually finalizing the application. So correct it before you proceed further. And next important point is that accurate. Your facts, the facts which you write should have an accuracy. If you have passed a particular degree in 2009, you can't write 2008. If your percentage is 63.3, it should be 63.3. You can't round it up and write 64, because then you will be caught. Remember, an application is merely a background. You will have to face an interview in the future, and if you are not accurate, there are chances that you will be put in an embarrassing position. And lastly, very important point, that it should be clean. What do I mean by clean? Clean is the presentation part of it, the formatting part of it. The margins, the spaces, the fonts should be arranged in such a way that when it comes before you, it looks clean and attractive. And lastly, simple. Simple, it is very important to value simplicity. Complexities do not mean that you are always right and that you are the best. The best things can be put very nicely through simple language. So remember, be brief, be to the point, have a clarity, send it correctly and accurately, and it's very important that your application looks attractive and simple. Now, coming to the structure of an application. Even if you cannot read what is written on the screen, it is important to see that all the parts of the letter are written on the left hand side. Just to name the parts, the first part is your personal information. That is the sender, the person who is writing the application. And sometimes it is technically also called as the heading of a cover letter. The second part is the date of writing the letter. The third part is the employer contact information, that is the recipient's address. The fourth part is the subject. It is nothing but a phrase stating that this is the position or this is the vacancy for which you are applying for. Then comes the salutation, the greeting with which you open the letter, and then you have the body of the letter, which is divided into opening paragraph, middle paragraph, closing paragraph. And when you have written all that, you move towards the closure of the structure of an application, and that is called the complementary close. Once you have written the complementary close, comes the signature, and finally you have the enclosure, wherein comes your second part, which is the CV or the resume. Let's discuss each and every part of the letter in detail. The first part, as I said, is your personal information. or technically called as heading. What is so special about this? If you see on the slide, it's written first name and last name. You can also add a prefix to your name. In case of a professional, for example, if somebody is a doctor, he can write Dr. Archana Joshi. He or she can write Dr. Archana Joshi, Dr. Mayank Nayak. Or for male members, generally the prefix would be MR, Mr. But for females, if you are married or unmarried, you should go in for a prefix known as capital M and small s dot, which is also pronounced as Ms. This prefix is generally used for official purposes, so that there is no misunderstanding whether the lady is married or unmarried. So, when you write your name, you have to take care to put a prefix, then write your first name and your last name. In this part, you also write your address. Now, what is so special about the address? But you have to keep in mind that don't put everything in one single line. Divide the address into 3 or 4 lines. Don't end each line with a comma as it was done in the traditional method. These days it is open-ended and there is no need of a comma after every line. In the first line you can write your street number, your flat number, your apartment name, and in the second line you can write the address, the pin code or the state, the city, everything. So divide the address into 3 or 4 lines so that it becomes clear, it looks good, and it comes out very attractive. The pin code number should not be forgotten. You can also write your contact address here and even your email address. Then, second part is the date of writing the letter. You have to remember, my friends, there is a particular way of writing the date also. No short forms or abbreviations should be used in the date. For example, today is 5th December 2012. You cannot write DEC for December. That shows your laziness. So go in for the full form DECEMBER. And if it is the year, you can't use the short form 12. Write year 2012. That's the care which has to be taken. These are minute things but should be kept in mind while writing. Then coming to the third part, that is the inside address or the address of the person to whom you are sending the application. Again, this is exactly like the heading. You have to mention the name of the person to whom you are writing, the title under which he works, and the company and the address of the company. But there is no need to put to because it is automatically understood that this is the recipient's address. There is no need of a comma also. So here again in inside address you put all the information of the receiver. Next, coming to the subject. This is just one line, one statement stating, which generally starts with an application for the post of an accountant, for a teacher, for a chartered accountant, for a marketing executive. It could be anything. You have to merely state the subject so that it becomes clear to the prospective employer what post you are applying for. Then comes the salutation. Just as you greet anybody when you meet first time of the day with a hello or with a good morning, in the same way when you start your letter, you start with a greeting. And the greeting with which a cover letter begins is nothing but something like Dear Sir, Dear Mr. Patel, Dear Miss Joshi, or Dear Hiring Manager. It could be anything. In the traditional methods, generally people had the tendency to write Respected Sir. Nowadays, it is Respected Sir is generally not used. In India, we still use dear sir, dear madam, sir or madam, but eventually even this is changing, and there is a personal touch which has to be added to the application, and for that you need to know the name of the person to whom you are sending the application. So you can seriously write or sincerely write, dear Mr. Patel, dear Mr. Joshi, dear Miss Mehta, whatsoever. And always remember, a salutation ends with a comma. Next, we have the body of the letter. This is in fact the heart of your cover letter, and it starts with an opening paragraph. In the opening paragraph, what you state is the purpose for what you are writing an application. You can also write the source from where you have got the information regarding this post. All that you can state, and also tell that you are interested in this job. Whatever you want to state about the purpose and the need, you can write it in the opening paragraph. Then moving to the middle paragraph. This paragraph should mention specifically how your skills and experience match with the job. This is basically very, very important. And here, in fact, you tell them that all the details of your career, of your education, of your experience have been enclosed in the given CV. So this is a very important paragraph, and you can also write what you are not going to state in the CV here. So middle paragraph becomes important. Then lastly, the closing paragraph. Don't forget to thank. Thanking is very important. It's a way of paying, it's a way of giving your gratitudes, and also express your passion and conviction for the job. If you are seriously interested, your words should show that. It should reflect that you actually are interested. Then coming to the complementary clause. This complementary clause matches with the salutation. Complementary clause always ends with a comma. There are two types of complementary clause. One is yours faithfully, and another is yours sincerely. Where to use yours faithfully and where to use yours sincerely, that sometimes is a problem. The only solution for this is, this should match with the salutation. If you are opening the letter with dear sir or sir, your complementary clause should be yours faithfully. If you are opening the letter with a name, for example, dear Mr. Mehta, dear Miss Joshi, then your complementary clause should be yours sincerely. Please remember, there is no apostrophe in the complementary clause, and the first letter of the second word of the complementary clause, that is faithfully and sincerely, the first letter is not capitalized. It is never capitalized, and it should always end with a comma. Just as the salutation ends with a comma, even complementary clause ends with a comma. Then you come to the almost the last part, that is the signature. What is so special about signature? Of course, in modern times it is extremely important to know what is the importance of a signature. You can get your signature typed, you can actually get your application written from anybody. Anybody can type it for you, but it becomes your application only when you sign it in your handwriting. That is called the written signature. And if possible, try to use a blue ink. Try to use blue ink for signing, so that if the letter is typed in black, what happens is it comes out clearly that this is the original application. And typed signature is nothing but your full name. You can also add your designation to it. So if an application has to be made authentic, signature in one's own handwriting is important. Then coming to the last part of the cover letter, and that is an enclosure. Enclosure is nothing but the list of attachments which are sent along with the cover letter. And a very important attachment which we have to discuss in detail is CV, right? So this is called an enclosure. If the cover letter, if you have an idea of what a cover letter is, as I previously said, an application is divided into two parts, a cover letter and a CV or a resume. So we now move on to the second part, that is called the CV or the resume. So from here we will try to find out what is a CV, what are the characteristics of a CV, what are the things which have to be kept in mind when you prepare a CV, and how to write it. Now, this is something which is enclosed with an application. There are two words, CV and resume. Right from the time I started my presentation, I have used an acronym CV. But what does it stand for? The full form of CV is curriculum vitae. This is not an English word. It is a Latin word, which when translated into English means the course of my life. Resume also is nothing but the course of your life, whatever you have achieved during your life. Curriculum vitae is also that, the education which you got, the experience which you got, the recognition which you have got, the awards which you have achieved, the hobbies which you have,